Good morning guys, welcome back to another video. As you can see, the car is still on the ground at the moment. You guys would have just seen it get jacked up. We're going back in time a little bit. I'm going to show you exactly why we're doing the new leafs. So I'm going 300 kilo constant load new leaf springs. They're by Toughdog, and basically I'm doing them to cater for the weight of the canopy, and also well, these leaves are just shot. So if you don't already know, they're stock leaves still. This is an ex-plumber's car, so I reckon he loaded the hell out of it and has just collapsed them basically. And I do have a 2-inch lift, but it is via the Super Pro Easy Lift Kit. So basically there's a block between the diff and the leaf pack that spaces it up. The 2 inches gives me that lift, but still retains the factory suspension. So pretty much every trip I go on, I'm always complaining to my friends about my leafs being inverted. Normal day-to-day use, no weight on the car, all that sort of stuff, they're basically level, so the leafs are basically flat. There's meant to be a, I forget what it's called, but it's basically like the backup leaf, which is the bottom one. That one's usually flat. It's meant to be like that, and it's not meant to touch the leaves until you load the car up. I'm pretty much running on that all the time, which is very, very not good. You shouldn't be doing that. So fingers crossed these 300 kilo leaf springs will help me out. I calculated that once the canopy and tray setup is kind of complete, I will have a constant load of about 250 kilos. That's including some camping gear, because obviously I really want to build this thing up for camping stuff, so I'm catering for the weight for that. Now this can carry more than 300 kilos, it's just the constant load is 300 kilos, so you know, you could add an extra 100 kilos on, but they just don't really like it, especially for long distances. So if I load up for camping and I'm 450 kilos or something like that, once I'm fully loaded, tanks of fuel, water, everything, then it's okay, I can still drive on it, but they will just, the leaf springs will just, I guess, wear quicker, I guess, because it doesn't have that 300 kilos in it. So it's not a bad thing. If you're worried about it, it should be all sweet. So underneath my car, the leaf springs are, like I said, basically flat. Flat, not fat. So I have already done the canopy setup inside. You guys would have seen that last video, just the fit out. So the electrical and stuff's not done, and I don't have a fridge and all that yet. It kind of looks bent, but it kind of looks flat at the same time. So this bottom leaf under here, that's not meant to be touching. That was meant to be sort of disconnected and flat, and that's like a backup spring pretty much. So when I run normally, it's like this. It's got a slight little hump in it, but for my eye, without the camera, it's basically level, which is a very bad thing. And my bump stop obviously has marks up there. Now I don't know if that's from flexing or if that's from going over bumps when I drive, but there is marks, and once I am completely loaded up, this thing is inverted. It's a very sad face, which is very not good. In there is the Super Pro Easy Lift Kit block, so I will be taking them out today because of the fact that the new leaf springs that are over there are already 2-inch lifted. So hopefully once I finish with this, it'll be the same height, if not maybe a little bit higher. And you guys would have seen I'd done some measurements before from the bottom of the rim to the top of the guard there. So we've got a bit of a baseline to go off and see how much lift or droop we get in comparison to this setup. Now I'm not stopping the whole rear setup at just the leaf springs. I do have new bushes over there, some Super Pro polyurethane bushes I think they are, and then in future I plan to do extended shackles and then also long travel rear shocks with extended brake lines and maybe extended ABS. I haven't looked into that yet, but for now we're just going to get these on because I need to start preparing for weight, and I don't really want to bend my chassis or do any major damage like that, because that is the issue you can run into with running the incorrect spring rate or incorrect spring weight for your rear setup. Anyway, but now that the car is lifted up for you guys, obviously I still have to do that. Let's get into installing them. Right, so I'm set up for this. We've got a 21mm at the front, we've got a 22mm up the 4 bolts underneath holding these U-bolts on, and then we've got two 19mm for the back shackle. Then we've also got a 13mm for the handbrake cable, and fingers crossed that's it. I don't really want to take the shock out, so we'll see if we have to do that or not. And I've just got the jack under here, not holding any weight, just resting on it, just in case. It's just a bit of a safety thing. I don't want it to droop at all. And obviously that side's already still bolted in, so it should be all sweet. those bolts are all out now, but before I take it off, I just wanted to quickly show you how good's that bushing. A little bit elongated there. That's completely cactus. That would have been doing absolutely nothing, and you can see the metal is actually sitting down like on the leaf spring. So it's not the best thing in the world. Rightio, so the old leaves are out. So that's what they look like. Now see how there's a nice bow in that now? That was completely flat before, so that's obviously what it's meant to look like, and over time it's just completely deteriorated. Apparently there's not meant to be gaps, like air gaps between the leaves as well, so you can see how they're all bunched together. Obviously as it comes further down it gets a little bit of a gap, and then you've got this backup one which is dead straight. So mine does have that, but I've never seen that before. These are the bushes we just had. So if you're not familiar with bushes, they're not really meant to look like that, and they're not meant to be completely cut in half. So luckily we were replacing them, and then I'm pretty sure it's got a kit to replace them as well. Now those U-bolts that I have are extended ones to cater for the block, so I do have the old factory ones as well in the shed, so I'll have to go grab them, I believe, because the spring pack, you know, obviously is like the same dimensions as that, like the same width. You know, that's probably like 60 mil, that's about 60 mil or so. So I think I'll have to put the factory ones back on. Rightio, driver's side is in. That's all bolted up, done, ready to crack. I just haven't put the shock on yet. I'll do that right at the end before I drop everything down. I think it might limit me to do that side. I had to undo the 4 U-bolt nuts on that side just so that I could get this down far enough, because I guess the smile in the spring was just too too happy, too smiley, and I couldn't get the diff down low enough with the other side connected. Obviously watching my brake lines, I disconnected this ABS line here, I disconnected the bolt up here, let it get a little bit more flex out of it, and then yeah, the other side's obviously almost tight, so that's why I've got a jack over there to stop the brake line from pulling tight. But yeah, this side's all in, all done. This is very important to you make sure it's nice and straight. The top hat and everything, and these U-bolts have to be nice and straight. And then also underneath where the bolts are, you want them to be evenly tightened. So like you do up your wheel nuts, you don't want to, you sort of cross them, and then yeah, they need to be evenly tightened. If you go too ugga-dugga on one side, so if you look at them, I've got probably, I don't know, 15 mil out of all of them. So if you leave, you know, 25 here and only 10 or something over there, then it's not going to be sitting correctly, and this plate won't be flat. So you want that to be even. Make sure it's all nice. I like to look at this many times, make sure it's nice and straight with the diff. I basically line the top hat, the bump stop here up with this little pad that's on the diff. So I try to get it, just eyeball it as best I can to make it nice and aligned, and then obviously you want it aligned that way as well. So you do have a locating pin in there, obviously. There's like a little knob, and it goes into a hole that's on the diff little pad here. So that's your best way of getting it. That sort of stops it from moving this way and this way. And then it's just this, tightening it all up, making sure it's all central. Rightio guys, everything is done. I haven't got the wheels on yet because I'm just going to give you a quick squiz. And then we'll go for a test drive, maybe let it settle a little bit if I do a lap around the block, and then get a measurement. Obviously it'll settle a little bit more over time. So this is what's going on under here. it's all in and sorted out. So just to recap on everything, you've got a bolt up there, you've got a bolt in here which I can use the original hardware for now. The old Super Pro kit, I had an extension bit with a longer bolt to thread it through. So now I use the factory stuff. Luckily I kept it all. Also the factory U-bolts with factory nuts. Luckily I kept them as well. I've put the factory bump stop on as well. A lot of people do change them out depending on their tray setup and all that sort of stuff. So then we've got the shackle at the back here. There's just these 2 bolts on here. New bushes, new busher at the front one over there. And pretty much that's it. It's the exact mirror image on the other side. There are slight differences with this side having the brake lines and that side having an ABS sensor. So a few complications I ran into was this brake line under here. This one on the right hand side of this little pad. That brake line was tightening up way too much when I was dropping the diff down. Now I needed to drop this diff down like so far because of just how I guess how strict that smile is, how happy it was, like I said before, that I had this sort of oh, what do you even call it, like the end where there's where it bolts to. Basically that was all the way up here, so I had quite a bit to go just to get it back down to here. So now there's a bit of pressure on it and a bit of weight on this. It's sort of flattened itself out a little bit, but once I release that, you'll see it. So yeah, I had to disconnect that. Obviously with a hard line being there, you have to be super careful, because if you bust that hard line, that's your brakes for one, and it'll start pissing out with brake fluid and then you won't have any brakes. But two, if you get any bend, cracks or anything like that and it has a slow leak, then it could be very dangerous when driving if you know, stomp the brakes and it just pops out, fluid starts going and you lose your brakes basically. So the way to do it, there's a little circlip thing here. You pop the circlip off towards you. Now it's quite difficult. I think I used like multi-grips and got on the front edge of it and then on the back edge of this bracket and squeezed, and it just slowly edged it off. But yeah, each car is different. Basically once I took that off, I was able to get the brake line to go through the hole a little bit. So this plate was kind of sitting about here. Once I got full droop, that gave me just enough to be able to hook all this stuff up. And one thing I will say is definitely have a crowbar or a pry bar or something like that to help, because I had to crowbar in between here to sort of get that leverage to really bend this part of the leaf spring down, just so I could get that shackle in. So both here and that end as well, I had to use the crowbar just to get those bolts through. But other than that, it's been pretty smooth sailing. Anyway, so I'm going to go and take it for a quick test drive. I've tightened everything up, made sure it's all good, so I'm just going to chuck the wheels back on and then take it for a spin around the block, see if I have any noises, if anything is loose or anything rattles, whatever, squeaks if I've done it too tight. But yeah, we'll see what happens, and I'll come back to you in a sec. Righto, so first impressions, it's bumpier. It's a lot bumpier. It's definitely a stiffer ride, and it feels like it's a lot higher in the rear compared to like yesterday when I drove it. So that will probably settle a little bit. Obviously not a lot, I hope, because I do like the height, and the back, no, the front will hopefully get a little bit more lift once I do a proper lift and everything. But yeah, first impressions, can't hear any noises really, so I reckon it's all tight. There's no squeaking that I can hear. Hopefully once I do all the extended brake lines, long travel shocks and the shackles, it'll still flex really well even though they're 300 kgs. So this should handle all our weight now, and pretty keen to finish the rest of the rear off. Alright guys, well, we're coming to the end of the video. The whole kit is in, it's feeling great, no noises, nothing like that on the test drive. I'm going to set myself a reminder for 1,000 kilometers time to do a once over, and just really check all the bolts, make sure everything's still tight. I'm stoked with how this rear setup is coming along during this lockdown period. I've had a great amount of time to sort of sort some things out that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and to be honest, I'm quite sad to go back to work, but you know, we've got to pay for these mods somehow. Anyway, those springs have been sitting in my shed for like 2 months, and I'm happy to finally get them in. If you guys are looking to do something similar to this, then yeah, just watch out for that brake line and try and get some help when doing it, or use a hoist. But other than that, it was pretty smooth sailing, pretty easy to do. So anyway guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's a bit informative for you if you're trying to do the same thing. These springs are a lot happier now. Just look at that smile. That's heaps better of an arch compared to what it was before. So I'm absolutely stoked with it. And I also found that I gained about roughly 30 mil lift around, like it was 32 and 33 I think, but after a little bit they'll probably settle a bit more. Hopefully it doesn't settle too much because I kind of like that amount of lift, and I would like to bring the front up a little bit higher. I want to go 3" in the front. Anyway guys, this has fixed my rear setup heaps. If you are sagging in the rear, then you definitely need to upgrade. Thank you for watching this video. As always, leave a comment down below if you've got any questions, and make sure you like and subscribe for some more content. Obviously we've got a few more things going on, and I've been on eBay and I've been online and doing a little bit of online shopping this lockdown, so we've got a few more things coming in, just waiting for them to get delivered. So thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. See you guys.